Hi everyone, it's Lynn. So today we're going to talk about our Purple Mountain Majesty color, which I just think is kind of fascinating, that that color. So to get right to it, I did do some lookup on stuff. Let me change it to the overhead. So this is Purple Mountain Majesty. I think I did find a dead-on color, so I thought we'd open this one up and look at it. I do want to say, though, that I haven't talked a ton about batiks, and so I thought we'd look at some batiks. But I found a similar color in this book. Again, it's The Secret Lives of Color by Casa St. Clair. And I think the closest one in this book, anyway, is heliotrope, because I couldn't really find a light, this light of a purple, just in going through it. So this was the closest one, because I don't think it's mauve. Mauve is just more, maybe it is closer to mauve, but so I just read some stuff about heliotrope, which I think is a little bit more, got a little bit more gray or red in it. This has got more gray, I think, in the true Purple Mountain Majesty that Crayon discovered or named. They named these. But I did think this was interesting, and I didn't know if y'all knew this. Now I know this because when I appraise quilts, let me turn this on. When I appraise quilts, like, I can see how others, or just like the history of fabric, you kind of learn stuff about the history of fabric when you learn about appraising. And one of the things is that you started seeing purple kind of being put into quilts more popular, like in the late 1800s. And one of the reasons that they did that is because it was at the height of popularity, or it was one of those that was more difficult to make and throughout our history. So the Victorians kind of figured out how to use it probably by 1880-ish kind of thing, and it became, if you don't know, at that time in history, it became very important. I'm going to switch back to this. It became very important that they had all these rules about mourning. And so if you had lost a husband, then you would have to wear a certain kind of clothing for so many months, an extended period of time. Well, one of the clothing that you had to wear, like if it was new, like your husband just died, you would have to wear black. But after you wore black for so long, then one of the next colors you could go into was heliotrope, which is kind of this light shade of purple. I think this one has a little bit more gray in it than the one in the book, but it's very similar to the light shade of purple. And it was used as a mourning type of material that they could wear after so long. And they call it, like you'll see in some literature, it'll be called half mourning. Well, now, why is that important to me? Because I start seeing this kind of color in 1880s quilts, because after people had worn, the mourning cloth or the mourning, dresses and stuff like that, then they would be actually, cut up and put into quilts, because that's what you do. Is those kinds of things were started as a dress, and then they went to, a child's dress, and then they went to an apron, and then they got put in the scrap bag. So you do see these kind of purples in the 1880s fabrics. And they very much use this purple in combination with a lot of different things. And it was very popular in the 1880s. In fact, the book went on to say that they used it a lot with light green and apricot, which I think is an interesting combination. I don't know that I pulled that, but light green and apricot. Let's do this. And this. Okay, there we are. Light green and apricot. So I thought I'd just kind of pull some of these. Now that's a bright green. I don't hate it with the purple, but that's a little bright green. But look at this. This is a reproduction of the 1930s. So if we're looking at this color being popular in the 1880s, we can also look at it being popular in the 1930s as well, because it was one of those cheery little prints that you saw a lot of people do. Now, I will say, and these are a lot of purples I just found in my stash. And some of them aren't the exact purple, but I think you can see, like this one's got more red in it than the gray does, which compared to our purple, I think this gray is more right on the color. But I did want to show you this. So this is something I made years ago, and it's one of those rope vases. I actually developed this technique of how to do it with this, but so you start in the bottom and you you wrap fabric around a rope clothesline, and then you actually sew it together, and as you wrap it you build it, kind of thing. And then I sewed these little circles because I thought that was interesting. But that color right there, that is the Purple Mountain Majesty according to Crayon, and I think it's gonna fall into the heliotrope color, like historically. But isn't that just a beautiful, like I really liked how the dark deep purple with black, and these are all batiks, they're all batiks, so how they just kind of go in these deep majestic purples all the way up to the light kind of reddy pinky purples, and then even into this gray. I was really pleased with the way this turned out, and just thought you guys would enjoy seeing that. I'm going to develop a rope vase class online. I just haven't filmed it yet, so I got to get on that. I think would be a really good class. So let me know if you'd be interested, because that's definitely on my list of things to do. I got a long list of things to do and not enough time to do them. Who said that? That was like in a movie, I think. So I was going to show you. This is reproduction 1880s fabrics. A lot of them, 1880s reproduction charm pack, from a shop that's no longer in. They closed about, I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. It's been a while. But I wanted to pull this out so you could see without ripping it. There we go. But notice how you've got these. Now, this was made by Little Quilts, and so Little Quilts was one of the premier quilt shops, I think, that you would find in Atlanta at one time, and they were definitely one of the quilt shops that they did a lot of 1800s reproduction type quilts. That was kind of what they were known for. That was the look. That if you wanted those kind of fabrics, they definitely carried them all. So these are those 1880s reproduction quilts. Like this is a double pink. And you'll notice I'm showing you that because they're going to go with this purple. And this is the bright yellow that they would have matched the purple with. And this is like got those little pinks in there. But isn't that just interesting to see, even though this isn't like stuff you would see today from a design perspective, these are definitely colors that are going to go with this purple, and we have seen it throughout history. One of my approaches to quilt, when I'm thinking about color and all that kind of stuff, is I look back at history and I'm like, okay, what did they used to do? And notice they were using these greens, these emerald greens, or light greens they would use with the purple. And I think purple and green always go together. So I wanted to pull out this kind of historical. Now, these aren't historical fabrics. These are, reproductions, but it's of that time frame. And we have a lot of samples. Ooh, that's pretty. Like, that's a pretty fabric. And I just wanted you to see kind of those. And see, it's almost the same. That's just a darker dye, but it's still got that heliotrope. So look at it. You've got reproduction 1880s, reproduction 1930s, and then a batik. which I think is beautiful. And then the blue. I think this is a much more versatile color. I think, do I say that every week? I may say that every week than we realize. But I just wanted you to slowly look at each one of those because I think this has a good array of different types of colors that are going to go with that purple every time. And we've seen it throughout history, so we've definitely seen that all together. And I want to put this back. This is kind of one of the things I don't want to... I was friends with I am still friends with the owner of the quilt store, and I miss her. I miss the quilt store. I think a lot of people do. It's not just me. So, but yeah, it was a quilt store in Marietta. So, but looking at all that, then you look at, oh my gosh, I mean, we looked at this last week, but these are the new Tula Pinks that, definitely you cannot say that Tula does not use. This is a modern quilt studio, Weeks Ringel and Bill Kerr fabric. They do some wovens, which I love wovens. Wovens are just, a checkerboard for me is just amazing. But you can look at, like, even new stuff designed, you're going to see this purple being used again, and you can use these really bright colors. So even though they were doing it in the 1880s, we are still currently printing. I mean, this is a brand new line of fabric called, I think, Tiny Beast that just came out. They also said that they would use that peacock blue with purple, and I'm like, yeah, there's no reason we shouldn't use the peacock blue with purple. And I think, you've got this gray. I think the Purple Mountain Majesty definitely has this gray in it that's going to give you that look. So, very interesting. So, all right. Cherry red. Well, look. Red and purple go together. What was I actually did a quilt. I probably should have hung it behind me, but I did a quilt that was red and purple, and it was a double wedding ring quilt. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but it definitely has that red and purple together. And I wanted to name it Red Wedding because I watched and read all the books of the HBO series Game of Thrones, and Red Wedding didn't end well for a lot of people, so. But look at the pinks. So you've got pinks and these purples. I think those definitely are this is Cave, so you've got some modern stuff. You've got more batiks happening. These are all gonna go with those purples. I like some of these quieter. Like, I think this color can hang with the brights, and it can hang with the more quieter, more subdued fabrics. So I think you're gonna find that this is of course, I think I've said that 100 times. It's one of the extremely versatile fabrics. So let's look at, I'll take away these. Okay. So we just have our purples up here. Take away Tula. And let's just look at it. Like, it's going to live with all of these kind of deeper... Definitely live with this. Oh, look at that. Of course, now this has some of that color in it, so you kind of have to... But I wanted you to see what the stone kind of colors, those kind of taupey and tan kind of colors will do with purple. They work. They work. Purple's not going to offend a lot of people. It's just going to go with so much. And yet... Here's the interesting thing. Purple is not one of those colors that are printed very much. So like when you go to the store, you'll see tons of blues, you'll see tons of greens, you'll see tons of reds. You'll see a few yellows and a few purples, which I think is interesting. Now, purple goes with orange, of course. Purple goes with orange. Now, I would do a brighter purple with orange, but You could do some more subdued oranges, you know. It's definitely they live together. They're going to live together. And I don't think it takes a lot to get them all to talk to each other. I tried to pull out some different stuff we hadn't seen in a while. I kind of like that with it. Isn't that pretty? One of the books that Little Quilts wrote was, they called them magic colors, and they were looking at historically the 1880s kind of prints, and they said there are certain magic colors that you see in all the 1880s scrap quilts, and they're right, and purple was one of them. And when you put purple in a quilt, it just has a little bit of sparkle. Purple and that not the cheddar, but this yellow kind of thing, and if you look, they are going to help sparkle some of these prints that don't even, I mean, this maybe has a little tiny bit of purple in it, but you can see how even this blue that's really not heavy on the purple is gonna, you just put that little bit in that and it'll just make it sparkle. And what a great name, heliotrope. I love that name. I think that's great. Okay, I pulled this one. This one's just pink and blue, but even though it's just pink and blue, I think it's that pink is going to live with enough of this that I could put purple with it. And isn't that interesting? And it doesn't have it in there. Especially, you know, yeah, I mean, it's going to work. I would want other stuff. Red and purple. What a great color combination. Of course, I made a big quilt, so yeah, it is. Okay, here's kind of the greens we were looking at last week, and I just think the greens look great with it as well, you know. Okay, so these I just kind of pulled some really strong colors. I think this one's a little too bright for this light of a purple, but yeah, it's not my favorite. I just grabbed some and thought, well, we'll see. Now, I do like this with it, and I think it's because it's going to pull some of the, this is a Route 66 print, but yeah, I do like this with it. This is going to be good with it. And it does give it a very stark, different look, right? Of course, old school Tula. It's going to look great with that, but that's purple. We've seen this print before, and I do like this print. I'm going to use it in something that you'll see upcoming. I made a little basket. It's kind of a basket, bag kind of thing. It's got a cute little handle. And I put all my, you know, we need baskets and bags and zipper totes and stuff for everything. So I put all nail files and all that kind of stuff, and it sits on my counter in my bathroom, and I really like it because I like this print. But isn't that pretty? I think that goes with it. Even though there's no purple in this print, really, I think you could marry this with a bunch of stuff and it would do that. Now remember, look at this light green. That's really pretty with it. That's going to give you a very soft feeling quilt. That doesn't make it loud and all that kind of stuff. It's definitely leaning into the softer side of it. Now this is the one we loved last week. Remember this? You can use it with this, but it's not having a great conversation. I don't love it with it, but the greens don't. I mean, greens are always going to go with purple and blue because they're so close in the color wheel, right? If we look at the color wheel again, you know, blue and green are all right there next to the purple. And then brown. Now this brown does have some purple in it, but it may be a little strong. This one would go better because it's got more red in it than the Purple Mountain Majesty. And that may be truly more heliotrope. I mean, what a great name. Oh, I pulled this one again. I like this print, but this I think would go really well with it because it's kind of got that. And honestly, this does remind me of the Smoky Mountains. So it's kind of got all those kind of blues and greens and stuff. Again, blues and greens are going to go. I pulled so much today. I don't know if we're going to get through them all. Oh, this was the stuff we liked the last time, so we'll see. The green and purple. Yes, maybe. I'm weird. I've got to make something with this. I'm just telling you. I know we looked at that last time. Okay. Don't hate it, but then I'm thinking back here, right? I'm thinking back to this kind of feeling for a quilt. So you're not going to put the entire thing in this, but these can all live together because they kind of have that same time frame, right? Here's our Alice in Wonderland again. Again, it works. There's no purple really in this print, but this doesn't compete against it. And I think it's because it's really versatile with blue. Like this gives me that blue-gray feeling is what this is kind of got undertones of. And I think that that's why it's so versatile. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do these. Well, I'll go through these really quick. So green and orange and pink. It's all right. I think you would have to say it's going to be this kind of color combo. This gray, I think, really dulls some stuff, so I don't absolutely. But if you're doing a big combination, yeah, I mean, these can work together. Maybe not my favorite choice, but definitely if you had that more, you know, the print that reads, you know, a batik is always going to read a little muddy because of the way that they're made. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I love a good batik. But they're not as crisp and clear as, you know, your prints are, kind of thing. And blue and purple is going to work because it's made out of blue. So, you know, red and blue together is what make purple. Now, this is going to have some gray in it, and I think that's what is going to like work with some better than others, because if it's a really warm color, you're going to have a harder time with it. It's okay. It's not, I wouldn't go out of my way to put these together. Now, that one may work a little bit better because I think it picks up more of that blue. Of course, brown, this is not feeling it for me. And I think the reason I don't love this is because, one, it's hard for these two to talk. This has more gray in it. This has more gold in it. So their undertones of what those colors are just not, they're not having a great conversation. So, don't love them. You knew we would find some I didn't like. Okay, more purple. I did literally pull almost all the purple I had. Now, here's the solid I think you would love with this. If you're going to use a solid with this Purple Mountain Majesty, it's going to be a gray. It's going to look good with all those, right? Because it has that gray undertone in it. And that's the way I think you're going to like it. So, not bad. And I think it's because it's got that red. Purple's made out of red as well as it is blue. So, definitely. Now, these two together, that may not make me as happy. Because sometimes those cheery prints just, you know, need other cheery friends and not more subdued friends. I don't want to say dull. They're not dull. They're just not as happy. They're just not as cheery. Now, here's our blacks and whites against it. Wow, I like this. And maybe it's just the print with it. That is really nice with that, with this batik. That's not bad with it either. These I don't love. This is nice with it. So apparently I'm not liking the more darker blacks. I kind of like the blacks that, the black and whites that have like more white in them than black. Isn't that cool? Yeah, those three work for me. Yep, those three work for me. Definitely. Okay, I pulled this one because we had it last time and I thought we didn't like it last time, but I'm going to like this with this one this time. So I didn't like that spring green as much with it because this was a little more subdued in the fabric. Even though it's a cafe and it's got 100 different colors in it, it still has a dullness to it because of the gray that's in this. Like all the colors kind of have been dulled down a little bit by gray. So, but this works with this because this also has gray in it. So I can see where this, you know, gosh, if we pulled that gray solid back up here, it would look good. And some of this deep teal in that, I would do that in a heartbeat. I love that fabric. Okay, so gray definitely work. And these kind of have a purple in them as well. Now I will say, this would go with this well, yeah. I will say you can tell which of these have kind of more red in them and which of them kind of had more purple in them. This, I promise you, will look, that's a gray. This will look more gray when you put it next to grays, but if you put it next to purples, it'll look more purple. It's one of those colors that just change on you. But look at that. I love a good plaid. Y'all, plaids are just awesome. Maybe it's my Scottish background. Now this is, I think, one of those reproduction 18. I just grabbed all the purples. Yeah, this is a reproduction 1880s, and I think it just, yeah, it's going to go with that. Okay, brand new, well, newish. This is an Old Melody Miller for RJR Fabrics, which I just love. That doesn't have any purple in it, but this blue color is kind of that dusty denim type of blue, and it looks fabulous with this, even though these are pink and red, right? This is a purple, but man, that would go with that so well. I just bought this. I just love the ladies in the 50s type of dresses with the balloons. I just think they're great. Oh yeah, that goes with all that. You know, you buy fabric and you're like, I guess I should make something out of that. I love it. This is fabric I just bought. Kid not, just off the line. So this is kind of a map type fabric. And even though it doesn't have any purple in it, it still has those gray undertone in the fabric. So because of the gray undertone in the fabric, and you've got these little gray, you know, places in here, this lives with that really well. Like I would do this with this in a heartbeat. I like this little bit modern pop to it, but this I think would live with this so well, which we may have to make that happen. That looks good with it too. Look at that. I bought that and this at the same time. Look at that. So the little stamps with the, you know, different places in the world, Egypt and China and Tokyo and the USA with the American Statue of Liberty, Golden Gate Bridge, Sydney. And then we could just put, oh, I'm just like, that looks nice. This looks nice together. Now these two are out of the same line, so of course they're going to look great together, and they have the same theme. So that helps in bringing blocks together and stuff, and quilts together if you have kind of a theme-based type of thing. So love those, but that looks really nice with that, right? This is a very old print, but it was like little violets and teacups, and I forget, I got it doing a block of the month thing. And we only got a fat quarter or something. So this I've had left over for a while. But I do think that background color is that Purple Mountain Majesty and that heliotrope kind of, I just like saying that word. But it shows you how the green was used with that. And according to the book, that was very popular, like using that green. Now, this one, I just thought I'd pull it and see. It doesn't really have this purple in it, but these pinky and fuchsia colors. Look at the bright orange. See, it goes with this, I think, really well. But when you turn it over, I'd be like, I don't know. This is one of those prints, and Cave does such big images. Like if I'm cutting, you know, a 2.5-inch square, and this goes with this, yay, that works. But if I'm doing a 2.5-inch square, this goes with this, So you really have to think about how you're using some of this stuff, depending upon, and that's just a great example of how things are cut is going to affect the look of it. So be not wary of, because I think big prints are gorgeous, but just be cognizant of the fact that if you're choosing this for a block that uses, you know, an inch square, that's a little bit of fabric. You know, you do better off using this fabric for an inch square than this fabric. This fabric you want to cut in those 10-inch blocks, or the, you know, just a bigger, because it's a bigger image. Okay, I bought this to do a quilt for my little niece. And it had purple in it. I was like, well, it definitely goes with this. So, isn't that cute? It was Frozen 2. This is Frozen 2 fabric with Kristoff and Elsa and all that. Now, I pulled some, like, this is fabric I've had for a while, but I wanted you to see kind of this kind of muted mint green with this purple, because I think you are looking at a really pretty color combination with that mint green and that purple. And this is very modern fabric. So I've given you this example of 30s fabric, 1880s fabric, and modern fabric. This has not gone out of style. It's not going to go out of style. Purple works with so many different colors. But look at how this, now, and granted, I'm basing it off this really cute Alexander Henry fabric. I cut off the thing, but loved this. I think it's Alexander Henry fabric. But this is just like modern sewing woes. I can't bear to leave these bolts behind. I'm a fabric addict. We all feel that way sometimes, I think. But look at the purple, the underground, the background of this, and how this all kind of works together with this Mountain's Majesty. I think when you start looking at your stash, you're going to find that if you don't have purple in your stash, like just by itself, you're going to find it in a lot of fabrics. And then this one, totally different look, totally different part of the world. This is Aboriginal fabric. And again, goes with this perfectly. And it's not all Aboriginal fabric's going to go with this, but notice how, man, if you threw this with, you know, some of this modern stuff, I mean, I would just be thrilled. This is a really neat, you know, purple is going to go with this kind of stuff. Now, there is some heliotrope in this print, but that's blue. That background's blue. It looks purple, but it's blue. So, again, but look at this with it. This is one of those, it's a woven, so the warp is like red and the weft is blue. I think I have that wrong. The warp is up and down and the weft is across. So it looks like the weft is blue and the warp is this darker purple. So, but it kind of gives you the iridescent kind of look, kind of, do you see kind of how it changes depending upon it? So it's a really neat print. Karen K. Buckley prints? I'm not sure. I don't want to tell you what it is. Okay, the last couple, and this is just kind of a blue And then another Cave purple, which would go with it. That's Cave Aboriginal. Love it. And there we have it. Oh my gosh, Purple Mountain Majesty. It can go with so much. All right. Well, I'm so glad you joined us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to join us, we're still doing this quilt along, and it gets posted every other week. Please buy the pattern if you have a chance. Just supports me, and it's so, I would just greatly appreciate it, so that I can keep doing this. That's the key, is so I can keep doing it. Anyway, y'all have a great day. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.